Kate Kunkel. I'm the creator of Brain Health Matters, which is a series of online courses, programs, and educational events like today's webinar, geared toward helping you be the healthiest you can be so your brain is the happiest it can be. And for 30 years, Yvonne King let IBS take over her life. It kept her from doing the things she loved. But that all changed when she was introduced to natural medicine, and she quickly lost 50 pounds. Wow. Got the ABS under control, and now is passionate about helping others discover what the root causes of their health issues are. Yvonne, thank you so much. And your passion comes through like right away. It's awesome.
Well, it's great. It's always great to talk to like-minded people.
Yeah, it makes the conversation flow a little smoother. Yeah. So I went to your website and you've got so much great stuff on there, but I have to ask you, why do you call all the little critters in our gut our friends?
Well, in our society, we are become so antibacterial, right? We have to kill all the bacteria. And yes, if we're having health issues, we most likely have an imbalance and an incorrect balance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria in our gut. But the truth is, none of them are bad bacteria. They all have a place to play in our health. And some of them, we readily need them. We just don't need as many of them. If we're having an issue, we probably have, the wrong kind. But right. Candida, for example, we need to have it. It has a place. And research is still just discovering what all those places are and what they all really have to do with us. Even some parasites have their place. We need some of them, right? We have a symbiotic, is that the right word? A relationship with them, right? It's just like the fish that lives on the whale that we all understand about. It's the same thing. We have these bugs in our gut and in our skin, our vaginal area, and all these different microbiome ecosystems in our body, but they're all there for a purpose. The more we understand them, the better we are. Right? We don't want to eradicate them. We don't go in there and spray it all down and kill it all. That's not helping, because we need to have that good balance so that it works the way it was intended to.
Right. It's not just bacteria, it's also viruses. Viruses and fungus and all those things have a place. And without them, yeah, we have a lot of trouble. So you mentioned about a bunch of different microbiomes. We mostly hear about the gut, but there's also a microbiome here and like all over the place. Yeah. Yes.
Basically, all the little cavities, right, of our body have a type of a microbiome in there, right? And we just need to understand that it's there for a purpose. And then we need to start understanding what it is that we do in our day-to-day life that's destroying it.
Right. And that's great, because you've provided us with a great freebie that says, what not to do so that you don't destroy these, because there are so many things we do and we don't even realize what we're doing to those little critters.
Now, how can we know what we don't know, right? And that's the thing is, I didn't know this about 6 years ago, right? And when I first started hearing about it, I thought maybe people were a little bit loopy and kind of a little bit crazy, these doctors I was hearing on Facebook or whatever. I'm like, he just said that yesterday, but he was saying that cured, whatever. And now he's saying it cures fibromyalgia. And tomorrow he's talking about, IBS or Crohn's. I'm like, how can it be the same thing? Because it all comes back down to our digestive system and getting our body back in balance so it can take care of what it needs to take care of.
Including our brain. That's my big thing, as people listening to this know, it's without a healthy gut, we cannot have a healthy brain. We just can't.
Well, and that's it. Like, people are starting to hear the term leaky gut. Mm-hmm. But if you have a leaky gut, you also have a leaky brain. And I don't want that to be scary. It's not a scary thing. It's just, you need to just understand that the choices that we're making are creating a snowball effect, so to speak, right, within our body. And so it's time to put a block in front of that snowball and stop it from rolling down the hill. Right?
Amen.
And start making a few different choices in our lives that we can stop the damage in the first place, right? Which is the first step. Stop putting fuel on the fire. Stop damaging things. Or I always say the analogy of, the bathroom, if you walked into the bathroom, the kids have been in there and now the toilet's overflowing. What do you do first? Do you grab a bucket and a mop, or do you go turn the water off so it stops going over top of the toilet so you have less mess in the first place, right? You got to turn off the tap. So what are the things we're doing that is turning on that tap and allowing everything to overflow?
So what would be an example of something that you would consider something that's causing the toilet to overflow?
Well, a lot of the top naturopathic doctors and functional medicine doctors, they all talk about the same thing. And Dr. Hyman's really big one for it. If anybody's ever followed him, he's a great person to follow.
Yeah.
And he talks about there's 3 main causes of all autoimmune conditions. And autoimmune conditions really is just a big category that almost everything else fits under, other than like heart disease and cancer. But pretty much almost everything else fits into autoimmune conditions. And even heart disease has a autoimmune connector to it, right? And so the 3 causes of those are infections, toxins and toxicities around us. And then also food intolerances. That's another big one, which I know you work with that too. And then of course, there's 2 things that, are always present, which is diet and stress, right? But the things that we can do the fastest and the easiest for us to deal with is, number 1, the food we put in our mouth, because we are fully in 100% control of that, right? And then number 2, starting to reduce the toxicity around us, the toxins that are in our food, the toxins that are that we put on our skin, put on our clothes, we plug into the wall, all these fragrances and things like that are all toxins, and they do a number of different things. One, they're destroying our microbiome, but also they're doing something called endocrine disruptors, which means they're affecting how the flow of hormones and the creation and distribution of hormones throughout our body. And those are really, yes, we can only control so much. What happens in the world, we can't control what everybody else is doing, but we can control what happens in our own home, right? And what we put on our own skin and what we put in our own mouth. And those.
I have to ask you a question about that. So when you said about our skin, I hear people saying all the time, well, the shampoo that I use or the body wash that I use, it says it's all natural. Tell me what that means to you.
Well, you can't trust a food label or food or cosmetic labeling, because everybody has a different definition of everything. And there's really not very good regulation in any country. European countries are probably a little bit better than North American and South American countries are, but still it's really up to interpretation. And there's a lot of what they call greenwashing nowadays, where companies are making us think it's green because they're calling it, green in their name, or they're putting a pretty green label on it and things like this. And they're making us think. But when you start looking at the ingredient list, it's not. And the really annoying part and scary part is that they can hide a lot of things under words like fragrance, and they can put a lot of toxic chemicals under fragrance and call it part of their secret formula, right? And they don't have to tell us about it, because that's what makes them who they are. And that's really alarming, because then we just don't know. We don't know who we can trust. So it comes down to just trusting a company, finding some companies that you can trust, and there's also some apps that you can use that kind of help too, like Think Dirty, or or the Environmental Working Group can be a great resource.
Right. So another question then, for when you're talking about labeling and food, then I talk a lot about the dangers of genetically modified, not so much even because it's modified, but because of what they spray on it because it's modified. That's the real issue, the Roundup and the glyphosate and all of that. So for our microbiome, for the health of our gut, what do you recommend to your clients to protect that from our food? Like, what's the best thing to do?
Well, doing your best to eat as organic as you can. And again, we get caught up in this terminology nowadays, and that's where all the debate comes, right? And does things need to be certified organic to be healthy for you? No, you just need to get to know your farmer, right? Who's growing this food for you? And a lot of the farmers in many different areas don't probably put very many sprays on them, but you got to have that conversation with them. And here in North America and Canada and in the United States, but Canada's really bad, is you have to jump through some bazillion hoops to get the word organic on your label, right? You got to prove all this and that, how many years has the land been sprayed, and oh my goodness, right? And it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the small producers, they just can't afford to do that. But if you actually talk to them, they probably are just as clean, or maybe even cleaner than the organic, because organic farming can still use some things that personally I wouldn't want in my body. Right. And so it's better. It gives us a place to start. But all these different terms and stuff, I mean, we have to always remember that, it's all about money too. Right.
Yeah,
and somebody along the line is making money off of the word organic. And so not necessarily the farmer, but there's, who they had to pay to get that term, put it on their label and stuff like that.
Right. That's a very good point, because we, and like you said about talking to the farmer, I know that one of the things I like to do here is go to the mercado. Certainly not all the people are organic farmers. Many of them are just buying from a big central warehouse. But if you stop and you actually chat and you learn where they're, like in my case, I don't want to buy garlic from China. So I have to really hunt out and find someone here that I can buy the garlic from. I'm going to start growing my own, but that's something to really think about. Where's the source as well? Not even just the stuff that's grown in our countries, but what is imported, because there you have no control and no assurance that it's pure.
And until you start to do your research, you really don't have any idea that, for example, that garlic is bleached so bad, right? And I mean, and part of it is import laws too, right? They have to make sure that there's no dirt on it and stuff like that. So sometimes they're at their own wit's end, so to speak, in that they have to do so much in order to be allowed to import things. And so it's a vicious circle, right? We can't blame any one part of the system. Our system is just screwed up.
No kidding. So let's get, because I want to give people some actionable things that they can go away from our talk with. And you have a 3-step approach to improving our microbiome. Can you lead us through that?
Well, the first one is just to stop the damage, right? So stop doing the things that are causing the problem. So a lot of that is, stop using these harsh chemicals. I know that we're in the world of COVID and stuff, so I'm not saying you don't clean, but clean better, right? There are things you can use, like vinegar is really pretty amazing on its own. You can add some essential oils to the vinegar if you want. There's lots of different things that you can do on your own, right? Lots of healthier versions of doing things that you're not so dependent on it. Alcohol, is really, really high levels of alcohol, but that's killing off our bacteria. So I'm not saying don't use that when because you have to nowadays, you have to clean your hands before you're going everywhere, but don't use it any more than you have to. As much as possible, just go wash your hands.
Yes.
Right? Soap will kill it too, right?
But not with an antibacterial soap.
Yes, exactly. Right. So watch the quality of the things that we're doing. So the quality of the foods, you can shop by the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, and so that you can save money, things like strawberries and spinach and any of that kind of stuff are always on the top of the dirty stuff. Things like avocados are usually on the Clean 15. They're not so bad. So use those guides to help. Sorry, my cat's crazy.
That's okay.
Use the guides to help save you money and figuring out where's the best place to put your cash, right? Because cash is king, and we vote with our dollars. And so if we want to see a change in the world, we have to start being willing to spend a little more money on some of these other things. Because if we don't, then they won't be forced to do it, because they're only going to do what they're going to make money off of. Exactly. And until they start making money off of better choices, they're not going to give us better choices, right?
Amen.
So we have to make that choice. We have to, that old saying all the time, be the change you want to see in the world, right? If we want to see a change, then we have to be willing to start making a change.
With our dollar, vote with our dollars. Yep.
Right.
Okay. So that's number one.
Next step, once we stop, killing everything off, the next step is to start rebuilding the good stuff, right? Getting the good guys what they need. And so we stop eating so much sugar because sugar just feeds the bad guys, right? And then eating more good, healthy proteins, whether you're using vegan proteins or animal proteins, make good choices, good, clean choices, and the best at your ability. Don't get all stressed out over it. We all have a restriction into our geographical location might restrict us, our finances restrict. Just do your best, right? To eat as clean as you can. And then put in things like good probiotics, like taking a supplement if you need to, eating good fermented foods, things like sauerkraut, kombucha, kefir. Fermented foods are starting to become the big thing, and they're really becoming way more available, which is awesome. Got to keep watching though, because there's some of those companies are just out to make money, and they put a lot of sugar in it. So do be careful, read your label.
Especially kombucha tea. Oh my gosh, you buy those stuff in the bottles and it's got so much sugar.
Yeah, some of it has a lot of sugar in it. And we're starting to see a lot of it come out now in like pop cans and aluminum cans. And so please be really careful with that. Try to buy it in glass jars as much as you possibly can, because there's a plastic lining in almost all of it. Well, even PVA free has a plastic lining. Don't fool yourself. It might be better, but it ain't really any better, right? Right now, we know that PVA is a problem, but in a few years, we're going to know that PVB and C and D and Q and whatever hell number they're going to come up with and call it in the future is just as much of a problem, because all they're doing, industry is just saying, science is now telling us and people are demanding, they don't want it. So they're just switching it up. They're just tricking us. It's no better. It's no better. Right? The science just hasn't got to us yet, but in a few years it will be. And so just try your best, right? And do the best you can, but try to eliminate canned foods as much as possible and buy things in jars. You can get a lot of stuff in jars now. Spaghetti sauces and the fruits and stuff like that are coming in jars more and more all the time.
Right. And asparagus and that sort of thing. And then finally, what do we have for the third thing?
Well, it's just starting to rebuild it all together. And we can't ignore the gut-brain connection, right? And the emotional mind and the physical body are all connected. We can't ignore one part of it. We are a whole being, our spirituality, our physical, our mental health, everything is one. It all plays on one. If you have one out of balance, it's like that old-fashioned balance, whatever they used to call that, right? The balance thing that they measured with, right? And if you have one up, the other, you have to find it to get a balance there as much as you can, right? I mean, yes, our world is crazy and we're never going to be without stress, but we have to learn how to manage our stress and find the things that make us passionate and love what we do. Go spend some time in nature or whatever floats your boat, right? But you've got to take time for you. Self-care is not selfish.
Absolutely not.
It should be a non-negotiable, right, in your life, finding time for yourself to do the things that fill your cup and make you feel good, right? And we just can't ignore that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. For your gut health or anything else. Yvonne, you are such a treasure trove of information. Thank you so much. I'm going to be posting in the comments, but also on the chat. Yvonne has given us a freebie. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're giving us here as a gift for watching?
Yeah, it's called 10 Ways You're Destroying Your Gut and 10 Hacks to Take It Back. And so it just talks about some of the things we already talked about, right? The things that you can look at to stop, killing off those good bacteria, right? And then how can we start making a better environment for the good guys so they can thrive better? Because God made them to be to overcome the bad guys, right? That's the way creation has created them. We have just given them the wrong environment in our garden down there, right? And so we just need to improve the environment of the garden so that they will naturally take over the way they're supposed to.
Yay. Yvonne, I know you have to be on your way. You've got an appointment. Thank you 1,000 times. This was just awesome. And I'm sure people are going to have to play it over a couple times to make sure they caught everything, because you're like me, so much to say, but it's wonderful. Thanks again, Yvonne. And I've got your freebie posted there, and I'll be make sure it goes up on YouTube as well when we put the show up there. Thanks so much. And I'll see you tomorrow in our clubhouse.
Yes. Yeah. And people are welcome if they want to learn more. I have a free Facebook group that they're most welcome to as well. It's just called Follow Your Gut.
I'll put that in the comments too. Follow your gut.
they're welcome to join the group. And there's all kinds of great stuff. There's a great little thing, 5 days to gut health in there too. And there's all kinds of awesome information.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Yvonne. Take good care.
Yeah, take care. Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye-bye.